So I am so truly honored and thrilled to be here today. So thank you, Angela, reminding me of the old days. My heart's beating, and it is such an honor and thrilled to be here for so many reasons. I just came from standing with the Vice President and Attorney General Holder at a press conference to highlight the dire and immediate need to reduce domestic violence homicides. And here I am now with all of you in Washington, D.C. Very exciting day, the kind of day that that makes your diary burst into flames when you write about it that night. I mean, I have to tell you that I whipped out my cell phone and took a selfie with the VP when I met him. You understand? So I understand that I owe the honor of being here today to a very sweet Alina Selnick. Where are you? Hiding. Where are you? There you are, beauty. I wanted to point that out to everybody, who is Danny Selnick's daughter. And I want to thank you for throwing my name into the ring. And I understand that you're a fan of the show, but I also understand that you want to be a prosecutor when you grow up. So I thank you in advance for everything that you are going to do with your life. The website for the National Press Club describes this as a place where news breaks out and flows out into the world, where journalists train to become the next generation of storytellers. And all of that serves to reinforce not only what a huge and great honor this is to be here, but also the scope of this opportunity and the importance of this moment and of this day. You also say on the website that the stakes couldn't be higher. So I would like to say I could not agree with you more. When I was thinking about what I wanted to say here today in this place where news flows out into the world, I thought about my first encounter with the statistics of sexual assault and domestic violence and child abuse, and it was almost 15 years ago, I hate to say. I was doing research for my role on SVU. And there they were, and if you'll bear with me, I would like to repeat them, although Angela's already said them, because I think they are worth repeating and repeating and repeating. In this country, 1 in 3 women experience physical or sexual abuse by an intimate partner in her lifetime. 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys are sexually abused by the age of 18. Every 2 minutes in the United States, somebody is sexually assaulted. Every 9 seconds, a woman is beaten. Every day, more than 3 women are killed by an intimate partner, and every day, 5 children die of abuse and neglect. So, the statistics went on, and then the letters came. And at first, they were a few, and then there were more, and there were hundreds, and since then, of course, there have been thousands, sadly. So the women and men that were writing these letters to me, they didn't ask for an autograph. They didn't ask for a headshot. They disclosed their stories of abuse to me. And a majority of them had some version of the phrase, "I've never told this to anyone." So there I was holding in my hands the stories behind the statistics that I had just learned. There I was at work every day having these issues pressed into my soul, pressed into my consciousness. And they were imprinted on me. They changed my thinking. So I educated myself. I trained to become a rape crisis advocate. I joined a few boards. I got involved. And I was so proud, and still am, so proud to be on a show that was brave enough to go into a territory that nobody else was talking about. Obviously, I had my role to play on television, but after learning what I learned and after hearing the statistics and receiving these letters, I knew that I wanted to do more. And I wanted to play a larger role in helping survivors heal and reclaim their lives. So in 2004, I started the Joyful Heart Foundation. Our mission, as Angela said, is to heal, empower, and educate survivors of sexual assault, domestic violence, and child abuse, and to shed light into the darkness that surrounds these issues. So under the amazing leadership, I can't look at you because I get emotional, of our CEO, Miley Zambuto, we've raised more than $10 million. If you don't have to go. Thank you. Okay, let me try that again. Anyway, we've raised over $10 million in private funds and served directly over 10,000 survivors and the professionals who care for them. We've connected with over 1 million individuals through our education and awareness initiatives and have championed crucial legislation and policy reforms, which again I'm very proud of, Sarah Tofty, to get justice for survivors. So while I'm not an expert on these issues, I proudly claim the title of advocate in the literal sense of the word, one who calls out to you. That's my inner self clapping for myself. Did you hear that? Okay, let the emotion pass. Here we are. Okay, so one who calls out for you on behalf of the thousands of survivors whose voices, whose courage, whose hope that I am honored to bring into this room with me today. So today, I want to talk about gardening. How about that for a left turn? When you buy a plant, it comes with instructions, right? It says, requires watering daily, thrives in sunlight. If the issues of domestic violence, sexual assault, and child abuse came with a label on them to how to make them grow in society, it would say, requires darkness, thrives in darkness of silence, fear, shame, and isolation. Silence allows criminals to thrive. So think about how helpful it is for each one of us. Think about how helpful it is to a criminal if we're not willing to talk about these crimes. And this is not about the victims who refuse to come forward. I'm talking about everybody else. I'm talking about all of us here in this room. Think about how helpful it is for a rapist if we consider rape an unseemly topic, one that is too frightening, one that is too complex, one that is too murky, or too difficult to prosecute, or simply not worth it. What kind of society do we end up with? We end up with a society where after 40 years plus, you can still count on one hand the number of corporations funding these issues in any significant way. Now, so many of you are here today, so I want to say thank you for that. We end up with a society where schools and institutions settle cases of sexual violence with as little transparency, as little accountability, and as little exposure as possible. A society where it is so hard for the anti-violence movement to come together because in order to compete for limited funding, organizations must stand out, which means by definition, they must stand alone. We end up with a society where, although, thank God, Congress recently reauthorized the Violence Against Women Act, thank God. But we end up, right, with a society where 22 senators and 138 congressmen voted against it. It's unconscionable. It's unconscionable. We end up in a society where after a victim has been raped or beaten at the hand of a spouse, after the devastation of the trauma, she has to live through the trauma of how the society receives her. She has to survive the trauma of, we don't want to talk about that. We don't want to deal with that. We don't want to deal with that. She has to deal with the trauma. She has to live through the trauma of, what was she wearing? Why was she dancing like that? Why was she out so late? Well, what did she expect? She was asking for it. I'm sure he didn't mean it. But he's such a nice guy. Why didn't she just leave? So to me, one of the most shocking demonstrations of how we regard crimes, right, in our society is the backlog of untested sexual assault evidence kits. known as rape kits, which are sitting in police storage facilities across the country. Now, both because I feel compelled to talk about it every chance I get, and because it is such a clear and concrete example, please allow me to dig down into this issue for a second. So every day in the United States, individuals take the enormously courageous step of reporting their rape to the police. Now, because of what these individuals have suffered, their bodies are a living, breathing, feeling crime scene.